Imagine a world where human beings were bought and sold like goods. A world where African men, women, and even children were chained, beaten, and shipped across the Atlantic like cargo. For centuries, that was the brutal reality, and Nigeria was one of the places deeply caught in this dark trade. But in 1807, something happened that would change history forever. Britain abolished the transatlantic slave trade. Yet, this freedom came with a twist, one that would later pave the way for colonial rule in Nigeria. Before 1807, the slave trade was a booming business along the West African coast. European merchants arrived with ships full of guns, gin, and textiles. In exchange, African middlemen, often local chiefs or traders, supplied them with slaves captured from wars or raids on neighboring villages. Ports like Bonny, Calabar, and Badagry became major centers of this human trade. Thousands of enslaved Africans from the Yoruba, Igbo, and other ethnic groups were sold off to work on plantations in the Americas and the Caribbean. It was a trade built on pain, tears, and unimaginable cruelty. But by the late 1700s, something started to change in Europe. Christian missionaries, human rights activists, and abolitionists began to speak out against the horror of slavery. One of the loudest voices was William Wilberforce, a member of the British Parliament. For years, he and others fought to convince Britain to end the slave trade. Finally, in March 1807, the British Parliament passed the Abolition of the Slave Trade Act. This law made it illegal for any British ship or subject to engage in the buying or selling of enslaved Africans. It was a major victory, a moment celebrated across Europe, but its effects in Africa were complex. The British Navy soon created the West Africa Squadron, a special fleet sent to patrol the coast of West Africa. Their mission was to stop illegal slave ships, rescue captured Africans, and punish slave traders. Over the next decades, thousands of Africans were freed from slave ships by this squadron. Many were brought to Sierra Leone, which became a settlement for freed slaves. The abolition did not end slavery in one day. In fact, in some Nigerian communities, local forms of slavery and servitude continued long after 1807. However, the British began to use the fight against slavery as a moral excuse to expand their control along the Nigerian coast. They signed treaties with local chiefs, established trading posts, and slowly took charge of territories under the claim of stopping slave trading. This was the beginning of British political influence in Nigeria, the first steps toward full colonial domination. Ironically, while Britain claimed to fight for freedom, it was also laying the foundation for the colonial rule that would last for more than a century. The abolition of the slave trade in 1807 remains one of the most important moments in African history. It ended one of humanity's darkest chapters, yet it also opened a new one, the era of European colonization. For Nigeria, it was both a moment of hope and the beginning of a new kind of control. Freedom came, but not on our own terms. So the next time you hear the year 1807, remember, it wasn't just about Britain ending a trade. It was the beginning of a new story, the story of how Nigeria's path to colonial rule quietly began.